Welcome back to A Game of Fangs and Thrones. My name's Hannah, and this is the worst book of the year so far, for me personally. I know, clickbaity title, but let me preface. Just because these books aren't for me personally, it doesn't mean they're bad books, it just means they were bad for me. And that could just be from bad timing. One of them I think I left too long, and it was short stories, so it's not normally my thing anyway. It just didn't grip me, or I just wasn't in the right mindset. So out of the 42, I would say, I have just one of my best books of the year so far, so you'd think I'd remember, but 42 books this year. I have 3 DNFs and 1 honourable mention, let's say. So I don't have, I only have one of these books to show you. The rest are on Vinted, so I am not going through that pile. Or they were Kindle books, and I've since returned them. I think they were Kindle Unlimited. So the physical book that the first DNF, it's probably in the pile just to the right of me, but I am not digging through, considering it would just go back on that pile, is Ghosts of the Shadow Market by Cassandra Clare and Friends. This was a short story collection that, following her Shadowhunters world, that I just couldn't get into. And I think because I felt that way about the short stories, I normally enjoy her short stories, at least. I'm not a short story girly normally, but hers I could get through. But I think because I didn't enjoy the short stories, that's it for me. I'm done with the Shadowhunters world. I got quite far into it. I just had Chain of Thorns to read, buy and read, and the second book of The Eldest Curses, but I just don't have any interest, and I don't need the space, and I need the space. So I don't need them clogging up valuable space. So that went, which I was okay about. But then I had, these aren't in any order, by the way. Then we had The Orphanage of the Gods by Helena Coggan. Again, this was a DNF. I tried to make it a rule that I get to about page 100 before I DNF. I think with this one I managed page 90, and I just wasn't pushing myself through it. I'll read the back, but just know this wasn't a favourite of mine. It wasn't a good read for me. I think I just couldn't get my head around the world building. I couldn't get a sense of the characters, and I just didn't care. But 20 years ago, the humans came for their gods. In the Bloody Revolution, gods were all but wiped out. Ever since, the children they left behind have been imprisoned in an orphanage, watched day and night by the ruthless god. No one has ever escaped the orphanage, until now. 17-year-old Hero is finally free, but at a terrible price. Her sister has been captured by the guard and is being held in a prison far out at sea. Hero desperately wants to rescue her and to escape the murderous guardsmen hunting her down. But not all the gods are dead, and the ones waiting for Hero in the north have their own plans for her, ones that will change the world forever. Now, that sounds intriguing. That sounds right up my alley. You know, that mix between dystopian and fantasy. I just didn't get it. This was more dystopian than fantasy. And the gods just seemed like meta-human, like X-Men style. This just felt like X-Men, but make it more fantasy. I make it dystopian, more dystopian with the prison/orphanage. I just couldn't get behind this story, unfortunately. But before this video turns into a rant, we will talk about the 2 Kindle Unlimited books that were unfortunate DNFs for me. Well, one was a DNF, the other was is an honourable mention. I think I gave it 3 stars at the time, but now I'm thinking either a 1 or I should have DNF'd. And that was Silent Kingdom by Rachel L. Shade. And it is the first book in a trilogy, and all I wrote on my list was boring. I just could not get behind it. I think I pushed through it because this was before I realised that DNFing is good. It's alright. I think the only time I won't DNF is if I'm reading for a review. But I can barely remember anything of this. But I think from what I remember, it's a standard fantasy format. We follow a princess whose uncle, I think, was the king, and he was murdered. She finds out it was her father, and then he curses her, or she becomes cursed to be mute, which in itself is a good concept. I think it just lacked execution. I just didn't buy it, and then she suddenly magically realizes what's happened and is able to talk in certain circumstances. Now, I'm not bashing selective mutism. I know that that's what, well, I'm hoping and thinking that that's what the author was trying to portray, and I can't speak for that representation, and I wouldn't want to belittle anybody who does struggle with selective mutism. My gripe, I guess, is that in the book, at least, it felt too convenient that she was suddenly able to tell her story, the truth of what happened. It just felt too convenient, too plot holey, and I kept thinking, oh well, maybe this is when it'll explain that, maybe this will be the turning point, and for me personally, it didn't happen. And then the last book so far for this video is the Montrose Paranormal Activity by Barbara Harter. If I keep looking over here, it's because that's where my journal is. And I think again I made this to page 100 and it was a DNF. The character, I only read this in the beginning of the month as well, and I just still can't remember her name. I think it was Abby, but I struggled to remember her name even when I was reading. But she was reading very young, and that's not a fault of the book. It probably is marketed for the younger end of YA, and as I've mentioned, I'm becoming a bit more picky with my YA reads, so I can't fault the book for that. I just couldn't get behind her. I didn't buy any of what she was saying, and the magic system just felt very convenient. I just thought, no, we're not pushing through the whole series here, because with it being Kindle Unlimited, it was the box set. And I just thought, nope. So, thankfully, this video, with being the worst books, because we know I don't like to be... There we go. We were so far away. That's better. The whole point of this video is not to berate authors, it's not to slag anybody off, it's not to put anybody down. I think with the worst books as well, it's to show that everybody is human. What I didn't like about, say, The Orphanage of Gods, someone else might like that, and it might be a favourite for them. So whenever I give a DNF or a low rating, it just means that it's not the right book for me. It isn't necessarily a bad book. It's just not for me at that time or place. And because these are stupidly full, and I have a bad habit of buying more, I don't have the space or the time to push through with a book I'm not enjoying, or I don't even have space for sentimentality. So I have to be ruthless. And this is just my way of letting you know that sometimes you have to DNF a book. It may be triggering for you, it may be just not enjoyable, so be kind to your mental health and DNF those books if you have to, but at least give them a try. That's why I like my 100-page rule. But all that being said, chat to me down in the comments below with any books that you've DNF'd recently, what your worst books of the year are so far, and I'll see you in the next one. So give this video a like if you like it, and hit that subscribe button if you want to see this, talk about these, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!